Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to Landscaping to the Point. It is me, Scott from Landscapes by Acme, and we got the G host over there, the ghost that shows up, and we have JC that just showed up way down at the bottom. JC, you just made it in time, buddy.
What's
What's
going
all
on,
going
guys?
on, guys? We're back. It's back to another week, another grind. I don't know. It's been a fun week, and I know this week we're going to have even fun more because it's a short week everywhere because of the 4th of July being on a Friday. So me and Josh were talking outside of it. It's going to be real fun, especially if we get rain. I know we're predicted rain. Josh and you guys are predicted rain, so that's going to be very interesting. It's always interesting when we get rain and is just trying to get through the daily stuff as normal. So
Look at Josh is giving me that look like this time it isn't him and it's me that had the technical issues.
I was talking a ton of shit when you were offline. I was like,
He was waiting for
internet.
him.
I think he was. I think he was hoping that it was you that had technical issues.
I mean, I did. I couldn't get my laptop started because I thought it was plugged in and the battery died. So
told you.
Yep. See, something. It's always something, right, guys? Yeah, I'm having issues with my other computer. So, but no problems. Hopefully, we're both good and connectivity is good for the rest of this time. We're not having no technical issues, especially on Josh's end. He always has the problem. So,
well, it's because he put aluminum foil over his antenna, so he should be good.
He should be. He should be really good. Should be real good. So, this week's episode, we're going to talk about heat stress. I know we've all gone through it. A lot of the United States have had some really bad heat. We're actually just starting to get a little bit cooler. We're going to be cooler tomorrow, but I think we're supposed to get back up there after this rain comes in that we're supposed to get Monday night. So have you guys experienced any of the heat lately over where you guys are at?
I like it.
Yeah. So I think it kind of sucks when it comes through sometimes, but how do you guys handle it? Especially being like JC, you being solo by yourself, Josh, you having a crew. How do you handle that heat stress?
Like working out on the field or just like comfort wise?
All over the place. I mean, comfort wise, it kind of sucks sometimes. I mean, but I feel like some days I get used to it after a while to where it's like, it's just as long as I'm drinking water, and keeping hydrated and kind of keeping cool when I can, I feel fine. Friday kind of sucked for us. We did, 8-yard mulch job and pruning. We got everybody over there. We tried to get it done quick. And then we went and did 2 more prunings real quick, which literally we all got done with that last pruning, the 3rd pruning, and we were just kind of like, wow, like, it wasn't even a full day. We were done at 1:30, but it was like, wow, it's burning hot. You're just like, it's like you could drink as much water as you want, and it's like you put the ice in the cooler, and it's just lukewarm water by the end of the day. By that time, so it's like, how do you combat that?
I mean, I think it's the same thing for the wintertime. I mean, it's all about the gear. A lot of it has to do with like the choice of clothing that you wear, the material of clothing that you wear, taking breaks, drinking water, making sure you're hydrated. Try your best if you're able to like get like a pop-up tent in a specific area that you work in. I know it could be a hassle. Try to do that. Add some salt to your water, some Gatorades, things like that, man.
Do you guys drink pickle juice? I heard pickle juice does it too. Like, will get you hydrated fast. No, you don't think so? I think Josh he's laughing over there. He's the one that's drinking pickle juice like nonstop. He sends his wife to get like gross. 14 cases of pickles every day.
Drinks it from the source.
Yeah. He's over there laughing. You never know. So, Josh, how do you keep your crew cool throughout the day?
Again, you kind of have to be realistic in your expectations of people. So, like, we had Sunday, Monday, Tuesdays. last week was, I think it varied between like 95 and 100 during the weekdays, and 80 was a warm up. I mean, Sunday was a warm up of like high 80s. You know that things aren't gonna completely get done, and tempers flare and people get tired. But it's more or less, I'll say from my personal side, I try to like super hydrate the night before. Really drink a ton of water before going out. That way you're primed and you're ready to go. And it's taking breaks and kind of knowing your limits and not pushing yourself. We tell guys, don't push it. If you got to take 5 minutes here or there, you get dizzy, sit down in the AC, sit down in a trailer, relax. Construction wise, I have the mid-size garage fans and the Home Depot canopies that you can go on. I know, like when I work on the construction side, like with the pavers, the canopies can sometimes be a pain in the ass because you're on that site for 8 to 12 hours and you're constantly having to move it around and moving around. So the fans are good to have. Obviously AC. Tell the guys to drink a lot of water. Tank tops. Maybe. I know some guys don't like to wear them. I started wearing them a few years ago. The gardener hats to really keep that sun off the head. Keep your head cool.
Sombreros.
Hold on, take a break.
Okay. Yeah. I get what you're saying. I
I mean,
mean,
I know Pablo has that umbrella hat that he wears.
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, Josh, what about, like, I see a lot of companies, especially a couple in our area, that literally they let their guys, when it gets really hot, just go without their uniform shirt or without a t-shirt and just do their mowing.
No.
You're like, no, make sure you got shirts on. Swamp ass, yeah. Everybody gets swamp ass. I don't know what he said. I mean, we got technical difficulties with him again, but
it's like, it's funny. Like every time he has technical difficulties, he gets surprised that he has it. But it's been like every week that he has it. So what's the surprise?
It's a surprise he has it.
Because it's going so smooth and then all of a sudden it starts acting up.
That's what I said. It's you. It's something about your house. It's like a ghost like comes into the Wi-Fi and just screws up when you start talking.
Listen, Josh is going to have to learn American Sign Language to
He's
get
going to have to learn.
We're
going to have to make you start typing or something. Oh, I think it's one of the things like you guys said. You got to make sure that everybody's drinking. I don't know Josh, if you're providing your guys with waters or cooler. I did, like, probably about 10 years ago, we went and put coolers in each truck. So that way each truck has a cooler. And then that way, everybody can stay cool. So I don't want to bring them in. Do you want to bring them in? I don't think we should bring them in.
Let's give him a chance. But
all right.
Have you
give you back another chance, Josh. Hey, what's up, Josh? So do you guys have coolers in your truck, or do you make the guys bring their own coolers?
Nope, stopped providing coolers because the guys didn't use them and then they wouldn't clean them out and they would grow mold. So Foreman has a credit card, and if he wants to buy everybody water, he can. Usually the guys buy their own stuff. Guys, it's kind of specific, but I've done the Gatorade jugs, ice in the morning, different style coolers, and they usually just get left on the back of like a shipping container or a back of a truck and never cleaned out. So I stopped with it.
Oh, I see. Yeah. I mean, a long time ago, we had the Gatorade coolers too, and I think those got nasty, and we just got rid of them. And I think having coolers in the truck was a lot easier, because literally the crewman, leader has to take care of it, and so he cleans it out, make sure it's got ice in it every day, so that way you're ready to go. And I usually dump water in it at the beginning of the morning, and then if they need to get Gatorade or whatever, they can get Gatorade too throughout the day. Because I want to make sure my guys are hydrated. You're probably the same way, Josh. You want to make sure your guys are hydrated, and just cool. I'd love to have like a tent that I could just move around from job to job when I'm doing it, but I mean, that's a lot of moving around, especially like canopy, like you're saying, especially if, I'm doing a pruning or something, having to move it around, or a mulch job. Like, I don't think I could do that. Like, it would just be freaking pain in my ass all day long. But
Have you seen the video of the Ventrac mower with the enclosed cab and the AC and
yep.
everything? Yeah.
Yeah. Toro's got one too now. Toro's
Do
got
they?
one too. Yeah. And it's like, can you just see that? Like, the guy just like, no, I'll just sit in the back of this mower and just run this mower the rest of the day from job to job.
It's got to be like a $8,000 to $10,000 option on the.
Oh, yeah.
On the mower, probably.
I wonder how it works though, because it's like you're gonna need like an alternator, right, attached to that mower, and it's something that it's more in depth.
It is. There's a lot more to it. So, I mean,
Well, it's just it's a mini HVAC system. It's the same thing with like a pickup. You don't need you need a condenser, receiver, dryer. Yeah, you need some sort of generator, but you can run it off a battery. It probably has its own HVAC system. Just the cab, it doesn't run tied into the mower. So if you can take the cab off, so it's probably like a mini HVAC box that sits on the back of it.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, think of like a mini split system. Same idea.
So, what about? Have you guys seen those? They're out now. They're kind of like the hats like Pablo's got, but they got little fans in them that you can turn. Would you end up buying any of those for your guys, or would you just be like, screw it, because they'll do the same thing and they'll just throw them away?
They won't get used. I bought years and years ago. I had a few guys and I bought them the regular hats and they never got used. So I said, fuck it, I'm not gonna bother.
What about cooling towels or cooling rags? One of those.
No one ever used them.
Yeah, we got a whole bunch of them from Echo a couple years ago, and I think the guys used them for a couple months and then just stopped. They just dropped them somewhere, and it was like, okay, well, that just was pointless.
Dude, I still have a case that Echo sent me that nobody ever used. They just sat there, and I put them in all the trucks, and they still haven't been used. And that was probably 8 years ago.
Dude, they work though.
They do work. They work really good, especially if especially when it's really hot. But you just got to remember where they're at and dry them out every time too. So, yeah,
it's weird how it works, but you do definitely have to kind of continuously like refresh it, like add some cool water to it, but it does maintain it somehow.
Yeah. So, Josh, how do you? Okay, if you guys are out mowing, how do they get cool? Just in between jobs?
Yeah, you sit in the AC. I mean, you got to figure. I mean,
you got AC in your trucks? You must be rich, dude. No wonder.
All my trucks except for one. My big dump truck doesn't have one, and it's not getting one either. Windows down. Don't drive in the
down. Hand crank windows too. I hope they're hand crank
windows. It's a 96 Top Kick 6500. It's an old boy.
Oh yeah. I love when you get the older trucks and you get a guy in there, a newer guy, and he's like, "How do you roll the windows down?" You just gotta crank that thing, buddy. Crank it.
Everything else is power windows, AC. That's one thing. So, yeah, I mean, they get time in between the. There's not a ton of density with the routes, so they average about. Some rides are 5 minutes, some rides are 10 to 15 minutes. So right. they can handle the cool off time. And then some of with the traffic, we do a lot of city work. So, they can have an hour ride back there sitting in the AC, but it's there, they got a route each day they know they have to get done. Obviously last week being hot, things didn't fully get done. And, I'm not going to complain about it because I wasn't out there. I'm injured right now. I was home with my AC. So I'm not going to sit there and be a dick and push guys, do the best you can and try not to get sick while you're out there.
Do you provide sunscreen for them, or do they provide it themselves?
In the trucks, if they want it, bug spray, sunscreen, the basic PPE stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
I used to go ham with like tank tops, hoodies, like high-end hoodies, the hats, and either guys didn't use it or they beat the shit out of it. So I just kind of stick to the basic PPE.
Right. Just easier that way. Yeah. I think it all just depends on, like you said, the guys, because certain guys might wear a hat, certain guys might not wear a hat, and certain guys will like that little cooling hat. They might not, you never know too. So it's like, why spend the money on it sometimes unless they're, really would want that type of a hat, so.
Just to backpedal real quick, I think you were asking before my internet went out about would I allow my guys to walk around shirtless or work shirtless? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Wouldn't happen. I had one guy that tried doing it when he was weed whacking. Had a blunt in his mouth at the same time. I said, "Get the fuck out of here! You're like a fucking idiot. You're like the asphalt guys." But at least the asphalt guys
Right.
have an excuse. I don't know if anybody's ever worked with asphalt that listens. That's brutal, especially in the summer months. So I get that. But for mowing, no. Like some of my guys have tank tops. You know, we rock the vest. Scott's making me more vests. So Scott makes t-shirts and business shirts and all that crap. You know, guys can wear shorts if they want to. I don't think it's a good idea on mowing days
Right.
because you know if you got to get on a weed whacker, if you don't have high socks, forget about it. You know, you're getting hit, hornets, all that crap. But yeah, no, shirts off, no, absolutely not. Not even on a construction site, no.
Right. I don't blame you. I mean, yeah, we wear shorts if they want to wear shorts. Yeah, shorts are one of those things that it's you know, you can wear them, and if you want to get hit, and you just got to get used to getting hit by the weed whacker or whatever you're doing. So yeah. Anna from Echo says hi. She misses us. We miss you too, Anna.
Yeah,
So nice that you're up on Instagram and seeing us up. So yeah, Brightstone, he's got his joke up there too right now.
Go.
What do you call a lawn that's been taken over by bees?
I laugh more at the actual question of the joke than the joke.
What do you
A
call a
buzzkill.
lawn that's been taken over by a buzzkill?
A buzzkill. Taken over by bees. Wow. That's different. It's different.
Wait, what? That was the answer? Buzzkill?
A buzzkill, yeah.
Yeah, she's confused.
Yeah.
JC's looking it up. Is it true?
I
Is it a
get
buzzkill?
Get the punchline, but what does that have to do with the lawn?
I guess it's taken over by bees. It's a buzzkill. I don't know. Brightstone, that was a good one, man. It was different. It was definitely different. JC's trying to analyze it.
What do you call a bee that locked you out of your car? A buzzkill. Like you can say that about everything.
Well, yeah. What do you call a bee that stole your beer? A buzzkill.
Hey, Scott, right? Put up a question in one of the chats. I'm curious how many guys have contracted Lyme disease in this line of work.
Well,
that is interesting. How many guys have contracted Lyme disease?
Well, here's another thing too. How many people get it and don't even realize that they have it?
Yeah, that's true. You know, it's funny. Yeah, the reason why I asked is I joined a search and rescue team, and it's for wilderness, but all the head lieutenants on it have all contracted it, were treated from it. Years ago, when we were doing a woodline clearing, I woke up in the morning, used the bathroom, you know, pants around my ankles. I realized I had blood all over my calf, and you know, I wiped it off, and I saw the little bullseye around the hole, and I started freaking out. And I go to the doctor. So obviously, what are you gonna do? You know, there's no thing that I take the head out, I throw it away, throw some alcohol on it. I said, I guess let me go to the doctor. I don't want to take a chance. And they go and they said, what kind of tick was it? I said, I don't fucking know what kind of tick it was. What was it? A dare tick? Was it this tick? I'm like, I didn't know there was more than one tick. And they go, well, the way it works without the tick, or if you didn't know what tick it was, we can't treat you for Lyme disease. But we can treat you for the infection, which also treats for Lyme. So, but what JC says, right, how many people don't even know they got bit by a tick? They knock it off. You know, ticks seem to go in, they're more prudent to go into like the folds of your skin. So like behind your knees, your neck, you know, your groin.
That's one of the things.
Jesus.
I've never gotten bit, but I've been in a lot of situations where I've felt them crawl on me and gotten them off before they bit me. So, I mean, yeah, that's got to suck. And I think it's got to come into an ability to where it's probably common for, especially on our industry, that, many guys have probably come in contact. And like you said, JC, they probably don't even know that they have it either. So, that's got to be one of the things that it's got to be high, I would think, especially in our industry. You
The
know,
one thing from the guys on my team, I'm gonna start doing now is actually treating my clothes. A few nights prior, because that seems to be the trick. I spray organic for ticks and mosquitoes, so I use that same spray on my clothes. But it's usually like same day if I'm going out to work, or I'll spray myself because I do get ticks on me a lot. I usually same thing. I get them when they're crawling. I haven't found a bite in years, but I know I bring them home too because the dogs constantly have them from the yard and from me. But um, yeah, I'm gonna start treating my clothes and my gear a few nights before.
okay, yeah, I think that's a good idea. I mean, I've heard of guys that do trees and do forestry work that do that. You know, treat their stuff ahead of time just to be on the safe side. Um, my son used to do camping a lot with a group, and they would say, treat it beforehand. They'd get them to get all their stuff in and treat it, the night before they would go out. So, yeah, I mean, that's a good thing to do. But like you said, how many people know what tick it is too?
Yeah, that's tough. I didn't know you were supposed to save it. You're supposed to take it out and throw it in a Ziploc baggie and bring it into the doctors with you so they can identify it.
Yeah, it's one of those things. JC, have you ever got bit?
Yeah, a couple years back, I had one, and same thing. I had that bullseye.
Okay.
Yeah, the exact same thing that Josh said. I took the tick and I threw it away, and they're like, "Oh, we need the tick," and they gave me something for it, but I don't
Which is
think.
scary because the bullseye is supposed to be like a definitive that's Lyme.
Yeah, it was kind of. I don't know. I couldn't really tell with mine. It was kind of like a bullseye. I thought I got to check that anyways, but who knows? Maybe I do have it, but they gave me something for it.
I heard once you get a tick, you always have a tick. Then.
Yeah. Hey, Brightstone, how's that for a joke?
That's a little bit better, right, Brightstone? Brightstone says, according to Johns Hopkins, there's close to 500,000 new cases annually in the U.S. for ticks. So there we go. That's very interesting. I didn't know that.
Hey, here's a fun fact. Kind of has to do with ticks, not really. But during 9/11, there was only one flight that was allowed to fly during the grounding of all aircrafts, and it was a charter flight. It was not a charter flight. It was an airplane that was carrying an antidote for someone who got bit by a snake.
What? Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, there's another one. How many guys out there, because I know there's a lot of guys down south and in like Texas and all that have gotten bit by a rattlesnake or a regular snake. I mean, there's some bad snakes down there. Yeah. I know Ricky said he's been close a couple times. Nick from PNH has gotten close.
Daddy, and scorpions too, right?
Yeah, there's scorpions over and in Arizona and stuff too. Like, I mean, there's a lot of those big things that could bite you and potentially kill you. So, I mean, it'd be interesting to know if anybody out there who's listening. I know Nathan's Lawn from Australia. He's had some big spiders, but a lot of those big spiders don't bite. But I mean, he still has snakes and stuff like that over there that could kill you. So, be interesting to know how many guys are close to that. Look at Pablo. He's got them guys down in Florida always got alligators too. So not only do you have to deal with heat stress, but you got to worry about getting bit, like, come on. Like, I don't know. I think I'll stay up here and worry about the bear and the coyote and all that.
I'm laughing at all the animals you're talking about. I'm like, my crew's got crackheads and shit they gotta watch out for. That shit in the
needles. You gotta watch out for the needles flying around, but it's all right.
Shit,
that's better than.
Dude, I tell you, there's a few areas of the city that's all it is. You can't weed whack it because there's so many used needles laying around the building.
That's bad, man. That's crazy. Yeah.
Dude, we had to call 611 in Boston to have them come pick up, and it was like probably like a quarter of a Home Depot bucket was filled up with used syringes. Granted, the location is, probably 3 miles from what's known as Methadone Mile in Boston, which is a friendly user area.
Jeez.
But yeah,
Going back to the heat, let me ask you guys this: Have you guys ever canceled a job because it was too hot to work?
Not my mowing. I've postponed jobs to another day, but not canceled a landscape job or a pruning because of the heat stress. I might have pushed it off to another day or whatever, but I've never canceled it. Josh, have you?
no. Usually start early, leave early, trying to beat the heat
Right.
type thing. Because I mean, in all honesty, you got enough energy you're running that you can usually get to like 1, 2, 3 o'clock before the real heat starts kicking up, and then usually that's when you hit the wall and you're like, all right, I'm done.
Okay. Here you go, Josh. Josh, you plant a lot of plants too, just like me. We do a lot of landscaping. So, have you ever planted a tree or anything in the heat and had to worry about it?
Yeah, I always, for a long time we were in drought conditions. I think this is the first year in a while we're not technically. I think the only part of Massachusetts that's in the drought right now is the Cape. Um, but yeah, I mean, probably for like 8 years we were in a drought condition, and especially yards that aren't irrigated. But in the same sense, once we plant it and we plant it right, and we tell the customers it's up to you to water it. It's in the ground. It survived. We can't control whether or not you water. We give them specific instructions, but good customers, I tend to drive by and check them. But yeah, you're always a little nervous when you have a big planting job. We did a big planting job for one of the utility companies we work with. It was a bee sanctuary. Um, they try to be eco-friendly and they take care of bees and that bee hives. And we put a bunch of pollinator plants in and no irrigation over there. So, we went and got a bunch of hose and a Home Depot Husky sprinkler. And that bothered me because, that was, $7,000 job, thousands of dollars worth of plants that you worry they're going to get burnt up. And, they may not understand. But at the end of the day, your responsibility to water them. We give the first
Right.
initial watering. If we're doing a good sized tree, we dig that hole out, we water that hole down so there's water in that hole, backfill it, and then keep watering it. We'll do the initial.
So, do you put water bags on your trees or?
If they're requested, and I've never put a water bag on a residential, some commercial stuff, municipal
Okay.
stuff, yeah. But again, usually we just give specific instructions to people where it's like, maybe just leave the garden hose. Oh, if it's one tree, leave the garden hose out there. There was one year we did, 86 arborvitaes, and the woman didn't have irrigation. And I said, watering that many arborvitaes is it's a lot of work. You might want to consider putting irrigation in. She didn't want to do it. And I'll be honest with you. Usually, with that many arborvitaes, you're gonna have probably 5 or 6 to die anyway out of the batch. She had one,
Right.
so she did a pretty good job.
Yeah. I mean, that's a normal, I think, with arborvitaes, and I think that's something that you got to let your customer know, especially when you're installing them. That's one of the things that we also do is just kind of let them know. Like, we've actually, it's usually once we get over like 10, we try to request that we do irrigation or make sure that it's getting irrigated, putting in a drip line or whatever we need to do to make sure that that's going to last. Because like you said, you're going to have some to die, but you don't want all of them to die, because the customer didn't want to go out and water. And, especially when it's a big job like that too. So do you
Yeah.
have that in your contracts that, that this is how you water and all that? And do you guarantee the trees or do you just not guarantee? Because I've heard many companies that guarantee the trees, but then they don't guarantee them if they don't see that it's getting watered.
I mean, you can tell when you pull that root ball out what it's been. So obviously, if we take it out and that root ball is moist and they've been taking care of it, we'll honor it. And if it's a good customer, we'll swap it out, no problem. But I've put in some plants where they've died out, and we fertilize them, we do the initial watering, but we mark them up enough that we're covered if we have to replace them. But again, it's all about educating the customer on how to water and when to water. You got
Right.
people that go out there that work from home. They go out on their lunch break and they're soaking the plants down when it's full sun, and that you're getting that glare and that reflection, and it's burning up plants. So we always email instructions on how to take care of plants if you don't have irrigation. If you do have irrigation, drip line, mist heads, PGPs, we'll set them up, and I'll go over myself. I set up and I adjust them to make sure everything's getting watered.
That's good. That's real good. I think that's a good thing to have. Now, now that you're using Jobber, are you emailing that through Jobber?
No,
Oh, come on. You should do that. So then that way you know that they read it.
Good point.
I don't know. I send you an email, you read the fucking email. That's how I look at it. You know, I
Well,
sent
I
it, no
mean,
problem.
some people don't read the emails. Some people don't read emails, when they get them. So, they might be thinking, oh, well, he's trying to upsell me on something else or. So, I mean, just by sending it through an email, through Jobber, you can make sure that it's seen and be like, okay, well, they seen it here. And if it dies, you're like, hey, it's totally covered.
Let me ask you this. So I'm not familiar with Jobbers, the way it works, but are you able to send your customers reminder text messages
Yes.
entirely?
Yes.
See, that'd be cool because like you if it's like a drought week or really hot week, you can just send a quick reminder, hey, don't forget to water or irrigate your lawns or your shrubs.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, you can. Josh probably hasn't got to that part. He doesn't barely use it, so
I wouldn't do it. I mean,
he doesn't
honest,
care.
I just, it's another step. I'm not going to do it. I give you the
Right.
instructions on how to do it. That's it. I don't own the plants. They're yours. I install
Right.
them. I install them correctly. I give you the proper process to, have your plants thrive. Most people listen. Some people don't. But again, at the end of the day, we tell customers when we take that root ball out, we can tell what's been done and what hasn't been done. If you watered it the night before, we're going to be able to tell if that root ball. I'll cut the root ball right up the middle to see if it's got water in there.
Right. I mean, yeah, I think you can tell, especially looking at the plant, if it's been watered lately or not. We had that a couple years ago where we guaranteed the customer their stuff for 6 months. And they called us exactly 2 days before 6 months. And it was a customer that we did other stuff for. So we were on their property at least every 3 weeks doing something for them. So we knew that there was no water to it. There was never a hose out to the arborvitaes. And they were like, well, we had half the arborvitaes die. And it was literally in the front, part of the quote was like, we can install an irrigation drip line to go all the way around everyone, and she was like, she pretty much said, I don't want it. And I was like, well, I hate to tell you this, but I've never seen a hose out there. I've never seen that portion of your yard wet. It's always been dry. I said, so I'm pretty sure that you haven't watered. And then she came out and was like, yeah, I don't water. I said, well, it's not guaranteed. So, we're going to have to go ahead and, we'll get you new plants, but you're going to have to pay for the plants, and install. So
It's like installing grass.
Right.
Soft. Like you're not going to know if these people actually water it. You give them the instructions. Like I'll give you an example. Probably 4 or 5 years ago, we had a guy that called us up. He had a pole installed, and he called us up to do the basically the roadway they use to the front yard and the backyard to loam it and seed it. We said, okay, loam. So you gave him a price between hydro seed and whenever they don't have irrigation, we give them the option with hydro seed. Everybody seems to think hydro seed will take better. Obviously it's got that moisture on the first application, but if you're not watering it, it's not going to make a difference. He opted to go with seed and pen mulch and some starter fertilizer. So we put that down. We put down 3-4 inches of clean soil and asked him, do you want to install even like single zone irrigation just to take care of it? He said, no, I got the oscillating, the old school oscillating sprinklers. And I said, I'll be honest with you. Most people that use that don't get great germination rates just because weak water pressure. And, you're going to run it for 30 minutes. It's not getting the depth it needs. You got to run that for an hour or two for them to really penetrate. And an example would be I use them in my garden because I don't have irrigation here yet. And they still have to run for an hour and a half, 2 hours to really get 2-3 inches worth of water to really soak them in. A year goes by. No, I'm sorry. A few months goes by, and he calls and he says, and mind you, this is on a pretty steep grade too. and we said you're gonna have some runoff. So we went super heavy with the pen mulch. Pen mulch is the tack. I don't know what other guys might take it. It's the brand. It's the tack and hydro seed, so it helps retain moisture and hold things in place. So you throw it down. It's what gives the green to a hand application for seeding.
Oh, it's
Um,
the pelletized stuff, right?
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
it grows when you water it. So
Right.
and now, mind you, we do the first watering on anything we do, whether it's lawn, plantings, anything like that. We'll sit there and we'll water it in while we're getting the trucks ready. And we did that. He complained about something. We went over and touched it up, but gave him fair warning. You're not going to have a high success rate if you're not being very adamant about watering it. That means you need to get out there at 5 o'clock in the morning. We told him, hey, we'll go to Home Depot and we'll pick up the 3-zone orbit timers for you. No, it's okay. I can take care of it. So when I was over the second time, obviously, I looked around. There was no timers on there. There was one oscillating sprinkler that he's moving around. And common sense would be he's not moving it correctly. A year goes by. I think it was like end of the winter. I'm going to check, my website and all that. And I realized when I Google my name, my ranking had not my ranking, my stars had gone down. I go on Yelp and this guy bashes me about the grass not growing and yada yada yada, and how basically I belittled them when we were talking to him. Mind you, I'm educating the guy on how it needs to be taken care of and how most people, when they don't have irrigation, because life gets in the way, you're not able to run out there at 5 o'clock, 12 o'clock, and then again at 7 o'clock at night and make sure that it's maintained. And I told him when we do get the complaint that, hey, my grass didn't grow or it started growing for a week and then stopped. If I dig a 9-inch hole and I see that it's dust, what am I going to do? I can't guarantee the lawn. So now I tell people, hey, you're responsible for watering. You want us to put in irrigation, fine. But that's one thing we will put in jobber is you got to decline the irrigation on the quote,
Right.
And that way, we're not responsible because I'm not going to monitor you watering it,
No, I
very
don't think.
very specific instructions.
Right. And I think that's the best way you can do it, especially when you install. Is that something like when you're looking at a job to go bid, do you look for like the irrigation to see if they have irrigation or not?
I ask them right up,
Okay.
and then I give them the options. Like again, we can install single valve system, full system for you. Um, I used to offer to install the Home Depot timers with the tripod sprinklers, and I got away from that because you marry the job if you do that.
Right.
And what I mean by marry the job is they think because you set that up, if they don't have a success rate, there's no germination, that you're responsible for that outcome, and you're not because again, they're there. The timer doesn't go off, so I'll send a link, say, hey, here's the timer. You need 100 feet worth of hose, but you're gonna have to move it around several times.
Right.
Most people are gonna do it for the first week. The majority of them don't get past that 5-day mark, and they're keeping it one place and go, it'll grow.
Right. And I think that's all where a lot of the guys, a lot of people that get stuff, they don't go in and make sure that it gets watered. They expect us as landscapers to make sure that it's going to grow. And like you said, it's literally the customers at that point. Once we walk off there, it's the customer's property. They got to make sure that it waters the plants. They got to make sure they water the grass if they want grass. And like you said, especially when it comes to hydro seeding, you're getting that first thing of water and that's it. If you're not continuously watering, and it's one of those things. I think I'm always, talking to a customer too, especially when they call in about hydro seeding and telling them that, because a lot of customers think once they see it sprayed, they're like, oh, it's good. It's going to be fine. I don't need to water. You're like, no, you need to still water. Like it's not going to grow. So you might as well just be cheaper and go with the grass and the dirt and the seed. It's a lot cheaper than the grass, the other way.
Customers also have the same mindset when it comes to sod. They think sod is like the instant automatic lawn that you don't need to do anything, whereas you need to water sod more so than you do seed.
I have a good story about that. I did one about 10 years ago. This was in a high neighborhood, high residential neighborhood. The guy owned like 5 different restaurants. He had us, it just was in his backyard. It was only 200 square foot yard that we had to, pull out, break down, and throw sod down. Well, we put it down. And he said, I got an irrigation system. I made sure it was running. made sure, the heads popped up all in the right areas, made sure that, I didn't cover up any heads for him when I installed it, and made sure it was water. And I said, okay, you're going to make sure that you water this. You're going to have to water this more than just dirt and seed. You got to make sure that it's nice, commonly kept up. And he's like, okay. 2 weeks later, he calls me back and he goes, your sod didn't work. I said, what do you mean? He said, it's not green no more. It's brown. And I said, did you water? Yeah, I watered once after you left. I thought it was fine because it's just grass. And I come out there and it's just dead. It's rotten. You can smell the dead rotten smell, and I'm like, dude, you did not water this. There's no way. Well, yeah, I did. I did the next day. I should be fine, right? And I said, no, you got to continuously water this. And he expected me to, reinstall it for free. And I said, I'm not reinstalling it for free. You're going to have to repay for all this. I said, because it's literally not done to spec. And he said, okay, fine. And, he did that. And then he gave me a bad review and told people that, I did a shitty job on installing because I knew a couple of his friends, and they were like, one of his friends was another lawn guy, and he was like, did you water it? And he's like, well, one time. And he's like, you got to water it every fucking day. I don't know what you're doing. It's something that if you want sod, water it, dude.
For at least 2 weeks every day.
Yeah.
Like the people that drive 20,000 miles a year and change the oil one time and don't rotate the tires, and then they're blaming the tire guy that the tires wore out in 20,000 miles,
Yeah. It's funny things. I mean, there's a lot that we go through as business owners in the green industry that it's always one of those things that you just kind of laugh sometimes when you go there and you see what's going on and you're like, yeah, I can see why you didn't get this, or why this isn't growing, or, here's a good one too. I want to throw out to you, Josh. When you install plants, do you take it out of the burlap, out of the cage and everything too?
Plants, I don't do a lot of B&Bs. The arborvitaes and stuff we will. They're usually 5 gallon to 2 to 5 gallon buckets, in containers. We cut off the bottom, and then we take the claw tool and we open up the root system and put them in. It depends on the tree. I know some of the blue spruces we get from the nurseries lately have been kind of dry, and you go to take them apart, take the burlap and ball off. They'll get a little jacked up. We try to cut as much of the burlap off as possible. We'll leave the basket halfway, and I know that's kind of like a debate in the industry right now, but we'll leave. Remember, metal rots. Over time, it's not gonna prevent the root system. Those spaces in the cage are 4 to 5 inches wide, but we do try to get the burlap off as much as possible. And you're supposed to, because remember, when you're planting these trees that come with those big root systems, those big root balls, you're supposed to be getting that flare. You're supposed to be taking that claw tool and cutting that flare back to expose. So you're really planting. A lot of guys will just drop shit in the hole and run. They'll succeed. It's funny. I went on an estimate across from a place that I planted a tree, a blue spruce, 9 years ago, and it was in so bad shape. And I didn't have equipment to put it in. I used a dolly and ratchet straps to get it up to where it had to go. And it was a nightmare. I was by myself. And when I went to go take everything off, the thing was disintegrating. So I told the woman, I said, I'm going to leave the burlap on. I'm going to take it off about a quarter and leave everything on. And the thing grew. And it's probably about 15, 20 feet tall now.
Nice. I agree with you, Josh. You got to break it up because you need to introduce you have to allow it to get oxygen, and a lot of it too is that when it's in that burlap over time, it compacts, and you got to loosen that up to get the roots to be able to take up the nutrients in the water and all that, and the moisture and all that stuff. So yeah, definitely got to do that.
I think it's the best thing to do is if you can take it all off, the better, the more better. But like you said, Josh, sometimes you get those ones that are so dry that they fall apart as soon as you start taking them apart, and you're like, okay, I hope this lasts because, I don't want to lose all the, the roots and stuff. So try to take as much as you can. I know that's a big debate, and we actually had a couple companies in our area install and didn't even do any of it. Didn't take out and, did the same thing like you said, just dropped them in the hole and was like, there you go, it's installed, and you're like, and nothing grew. So it literally stunted itself and screwed it all up. So, I mean, after it was literally a year and a half later. So literally,
I've done a handful of those. Not to an extreme where it was like on the business end, but I've dealt with those before. And one thing that I've done is I've soaked it before I've taken the burlap off. You know.
okay, that's a good idea. I never really thought about that. So, but you want to make it by the hole, right? Or we just soak? Did you soak it right in the middle of the yard?
No, right in the hole. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So get it in the hole, soak it. You know, just get it nice and saturated, and then you know, let it sit for a little bit, and then take the burlap off. You can.
Yeah.
So the way I was taught, so again, like on a bigger tree like October Sky Maple or something like that, you know, you're digging a pretty decent sized hole. The way I was taught, just like Jensen said, you do your treatment to the root ball, you do your chlorine, you get your flare out, you put that in, and you start backfilling with water. You know, you put that water in, so it's the bottom, so it sucks that up from the bottom,
100%.
and it gets fed. You know, we'll put a little bit of soil in, we'll soak it again, and then we'll backfill it.
Yep. Exactly.
Right. Definitely. That's definitely what you should do. So if you guys
I
have any
will say
questions about that,
I don't know if they do it anymore. I use elements from Bauer and Branch as my fertilizer. I swear by this shit. It's fucking awesome. And I know that if you buy a tree from a nursery that's a Bauer and Branch dealer, and you can even get the little packet, they'll extend the warranty, I think 6 months to a year if you buy the fertilizer with the tree. So that's a selling point for your customer. I don't know if other tree companies have done that make their own fertilizer. We don't. I don't offer it because I don't buy the Bauer and Branch tree. I just buy the elements. I get them. I get it online anyway.
Right.
But I swear by that shit if anybody uses it.
it's interesting. No, I mean, I think, you know, it's very interesting. I see a lot of more companies now that aren't guaranteeing plants. A lot of the nurseries out by us are actually, unless you buy the plant from them. So if your landscaper comes in and buys the plant from them and installs it, they won't guarantee it. So literally, unless they're installing it, that's the only way they're guaranteeing it anymore. So it's kind of like yourself as the landscaper need to guarantee it if you're going to guarantee it or not guarantee it. So it's all up to you guys.
You can do it depending on your markup if you can sell
Right.
it. And that's an advertising. So like we're like when we're doing mass arborvitaes, we're always going to be about 15% higher than most contractors. And the reason why we tell them is because, like, you know, we can offer a little, and this is usually for good customers that I've worked with. Like, we'll mark them up. So if a contract is $200 on an arborvitae, you know, we're probably about 250, 265 just to cover that difference. You know, because you know you're buying the arborvitae depending on how much you buy. You know, you can get them for 60 to $100. You know, for
Right.
5 to 6 footer. So. But you can always mark it up, and that could be your selling point where, you know, we will guarantee it for 6 months. You know, it's a little bit more, but it's like an extended warranty with a car. You know, extended warranties are, you know, you get the manufacturer warranty that usually runs out before anything happens, but then you can sell that extended warranty where it's like, you know, for 20% of the contract price, you know, we'll replace them up to, you know, we're planting 47 trees, we'll replace them up to 7, you know. So,
Right. So now, would you call them back after 6 months and be like, "Hey, I'll sell you, you know, another 6 months"?
Because you're extending, oh, why not? Yeah, I mean, I've never done it, but why not? You know,
I mean, that'd be a good selling point for us landscapers. Is, you know, sell them a contract and then, you know, 6 months later, sell them another contract. You know,
so
don't
I
take
got it.
it.
I have reminders. I have reminders in my my Outlook when we install patios. We usually tell people, next year you'll get an automatic reminder through the email about sealing the patio if we don't use sealed pavers. And then I do actually set it up from 3 years to remind them about a poly and a reseal, redoing the
Okay.
polymeric sand. Because one of the biggest complaints is people will say, you know, I have these installed, or I bought the house with the walkway. They said it was just installed, and within a year, I had all the weeds growing in the cracks. And I said, you know, you still have preventative maintenance on hardscape. It's not just as easy as installing it and it's gone. I'm like, you still have to clean it. You have to replace that polymeric sand, and you know, if you have run out or if it wasn't maybe properly installed, you have to replenish it and fill it up. But there's regular maintenance that goes with that too. You know, and that is the selling point. And I use it with people. And I usually say, hey, you know, we can help you out. You know, for $400-500, we can seal your walkway, your patio next year. You know, you can sell a maintenance package. You know, we started putting together where it was like after 3 years, well, you know, we mark it out, we come back out, we repoly, we power wash the joints and repoly it and everything. You know, any sinking pavers, take care of it. You know, some people won't go for it. You know, but again, it's an extended car policy for landscape.
I think it's a good idea. I think it's a real good idea, and I think I don't see a lot of companies that do that, you know, and I think what you're doing is awesome. I mean, that's a good way to keep your customer base, you know, because then it gets in their head too. Every 3 years, you're out there doing something for them, and you know, they might be like, oh, well, I need this landscaping done this year, or I need to freshen this up, or add some more plants. So, I mean, that can be, you know, and also a good selling point too, being out there every 3 years. So, very good stuff. Very good stuff. All right, guys. So we've had a great talk about heat stress. We got a kind of a good joke. Phil from Vision says he does that for tree planting also. So
what's that? The extended warranty or the
extended warranty, Phil? Is that what you do? I'm assuming so. So I mean that could be a good upsell for customers if you're doing that. Phil, let us know. I'd like to know more. He says aftercare service including pruning, soil treatments, etc.
Perfect. Yep. So, perfect.
Yeah.
Hey, again, like the fertilizer, if you're using organic fertilizer, you don't have to be licensed for it. It keeps you on the property too. You know,
Right.
It keeps you on the property. Guys like tree guys, you know, that could be a jackpot. If someone has, you know, ash trees or oak trees and you can identify disease with them, you make a cash cow with that, you know. Whatever you can do.
Even if you're doing a pruning, like, you know, tell a customer if you're out there in the spring doing a pruning, a lot of plants don't get all pruned at the same time.
No.
Educate the customer when you have to prune certain bushes, you know, and then you can say to the customer, well, I can sign you up for this pruning. I'll come back for these bushes. I'll come back in the fall again to reprune this or cut back the grasses or whatever needs to be done. So that way the customer knows and you're going to continue to have, you know, service after one pruning job. So, I mean, that is a thing to sell for a customer too. So, yeah. Very good stuff today, guys. Very good stuff today. So we talked about a lot of different things. We talked about heat stress. We talked about Josh walking around without his shirt. And Anna said, don't do that. She doesn't want to see that. Okay. So thank you guys for being on. It was a really good stuff. And then, you know, we got some good information from Phil from Vision up in Canada and Brightstone and Turf Bros. We had a lot of people on today. So thank you guys for watching us and listening to us. I mean, it's always fun to have everybody on and watching us. And JC, I know I sent it to you guys, but I'm going to say it out to everybody because I think it's pretty cool. We just got from Apple and Spotify that we were ranked not only 12th, but 22nd in business landscape podcasts and 31 for landscaping podcasts. So that's pretty good in the whole podcasts all over the place. And, you know, we're just going to keep going, guys, and just keep going up and up. And, you know, we got to somehow fix Josh's, you know, internet. So he can always be on and just not have this issue anymore. But, you know, who knows? We need to be at number 1 to do that. So
we gotta start taking bets each week if my internet's gonna go out and what time market's gonna go out. So we can start.
I think we should do like shots or something, you know, shots. Pick a time and we'll take a shot. And
technical issues, yeah.
Do football squares for each time block. 15-minute time blocks.
Technical squares. Yep. Technical squares. We're going to start having those, guys. Well, thank you guys for all listening. Thank you guys for watching us, no matter where you guys watching us. Thanks to our sponsor, Cujo, Pro Parts Direct, and Awesome Candle. Thank you guys for sponsoring our show. And keep watching, keep listening, and you never know where we'll be at next. So thanks, guys.